Howdy, all. I am Adam the Renaissance Nerd, and Amazon's Wheel of Time, not to be confused with Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time. Amazon's Wheel of Time has become a central topic on this channel because I'm reviewing it, and I'm constantly having to talk about it. I'm doing live streams on it. We're gonna do it autopsy of the season 1 in a couple of weeks. Already putting a panel together, more details to follow on that as it starts to unite into a force of mighty destruction that will rain down upon this horrific show. No, but Amazon's Wheel of Time, it's a disaster. And anybody that says otherwise is lying to themselves and suffering from severe cognitive dissonance. But as it has been discussed on my live streams, the Roundtable, Natural 20, as I've said, as it's been discussed in my comments and in the chats, there are possibly other reasons to why people continue to protect this show. Or, in the case of Brandon Sanderson, who took over writing duties for Robert Jordan when he passed away to finish the grand saga that was Wheel of Time, he says one thing and says another, so kind of feels like he's fence-sitting, but he has his reasons, as others have suggested to me. And I'm willing to take those opinions as good information to build reasoning as to this. So, Brandon Sanderson, people have been asking me, wanting to know, what do I think of Brandon Sanderson? What do I think of his opinions on this stuff? Well, Brandon Sanderson has now said something recently. Wheel of Time, we are here bounding into comics. John F. Trent, as usual, John F. Trent has collected information, making it very easy for me to look at it, analyze it, digest it, and discuss it with you. Wheel of Time, Brandon Sanderson takes issue with characterizations of Nynaeve and Tom, as well as the introduction to the Tankers. Now, his comments are spread all over this article, so we're going to skip John F. Trent talking about backstory, because if you're here listening to stuff, you know what's going on. You don't need to be filled in. What we want to talk about is what Mr. Sanderson is saying. So, he previously criticized Rafe Judkins' decision to have Perrin kill his wife. Perrin kill his non-existent canonical wife. Perrin has one wife. Her name is Fail, and she's perfectly capable of taking care of herself. And Perrin would never have harmed her, even by accident, because that happened in the books. Anyway, Brandon speaking. Brandon Sanderson. We'll just call him Mr. Sanderson. We'll call him Mr. Sanderson. He detailed the biggest thing Rafe, and I disagreed on was Perrin's wife. I realized that there is a good opportunity here for Perrin to be shown with rage issues and to be afraid of potential beast inside him. I liked that idea, but I didn't like it being his wife for multiple reasons. Well, all right, let's finish what he's saying. I will control myself to finish the dialogue that Mr. Sanderson says before I start commentary. First off, it feels like the disposable wife trope, aka woman in a fridge. Fuck those comics. Fuck the comic book industry for that shit. Beyond that, I think the trauma of having killed your wife is so huge, the story this is telling can't realistically deal with it in a way that is responsible. Perrin killing his wife and going off an adventure really bothers me even still. Okay, let's take this into account here. He's basically right. Mr. Sanderson is right in the sense that killing his wife was dumb. But why didn't you push harder in having him have a wife there to begin with? He shouldn't have even been there to begin with. Because you say, show his rage issues. Perrin's rage issues don't come into story until later. They're not a part of the early part of the story in Eye of the World. So I don't know why it should even be an issue at this point. Now I believe it goes on, and look at that. That is such a picture. That picture is such a lie. That is not in this story in Amazon's Wheel of Time. Perrin Ibarra is not a blacksmith. He has not once shown to be a blacksmith. Here he is in his blacksmith garb. Not once was he shown to be a blacksmith. This dull-witted fop. Sanders. Okay, so now we're gonna just breeze over this. Now, Mr. Sanderson's suggestion was that Perrin kill Master Luhan the actual blacksmith of Two Rivers, of Edmondsfield, not Two Rivers, Edmondsfield. And I agree that would have been, if you're going to have to shift things, and if you want to create a moment that wasn't in the books that might actually feel like something with an actual character, that might have been the way to go. But one thing he didn't want was to Wheel of Time adaptation to try and lean into being a tonal Game of Thrones replacement, i.e., he didn't want to lean into grim, dark ideas. Killing Perrin's wife felt edgy just to be edgy. And you know what? He's right. That is right. It was edgy to be edgy, and they did it, in my opinion, as a writer, a storyteller, creator, from my creative perspective, they did it to turn Perrin into a weeping man baby. And I say man baby in the sarcastic sense because that's how they see us. They see us as man babies. They wanted to turn him into a weeping man baby. They wanted to demasculinize. I don't know how that worked. I've never tried to work that before. We'll say demasculinize. They wanted to demasculinize him. They wanted to take one of the biggest, most stable characters in the franchise, a guy who we've talked about Perrin's dichotomy, but at the bottom line, Perrin is a physical masculine man, big, strong, protector. They wanted to take that away from his character and turn him into a gibbering, weak-kneed mess. That is what they did. That is why they had him kill a strong and powerful woman who was the actual blacksmith in Edmondsfield. All right. Moving on, Mr. Sanderson's next context is talking about, he's still talking about Perrin. We're going to move on. The whole Perrin thing should never have happened. Now, Sanderson was apparently, according to this article, okay with episodes 1 and 2, which he directly had influence in. And after that, he has not had influence, apparently, on episodes 3+. He was just not heavily consulted on that. And it could be argued that is where the going off the rails begins. Maybe if he'd been more assertive, he might have kept it on track, maybe kept some semblance of the Wheel of Time. But Sanderson's complaint about the new show's tone being grimdark would resurface again in his comments about episode 3. I am the voice on the team that is pushing for a little less grimness and a little more hope in the episodes. They are all turning out rather gory. And yes, these episodes up through 5 are unnecessarily graphic. Now, I'm no prude. I'm no person. I'm not afraid of a little gore, little action. But it's been unnecessarily gory, especially because Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time, in the book, it is not written as a gore fest. Robert Jordan actually, with the exception of maybe some important story-specific grievous wounds that are supposed to be part of plot for character development, he shies away from heavy action descriptions, heavy gore descriptions. That was not his style. So to do that in this show is just purely for shock value. Just for shock value. Though I wouldn't have chosen that, I am not opposed to it in the context of Wheel of Time, as my gut instinct says Robert Jordan would have felt the violence appropriate. You see, that's where I disagree. That is where I disagree. I just said why I disagree about that. I personally didn't want to see people being ripped apart by Trollocs, but it's suggested, sometimes explicit in the text. It's not something I can complain about. Again, Jordan didn't dwell on the gore. He didn't dwell on it, which is why I disagree with this statement that Jordan would have been okay with it. He didn't dwell on it. He was more kind of just painting the picture, not giving you the blow-by-blow detail. That's just my opinion, my perspective. You don't agree with me? That's fine. Now, he stresses the darker tone. However, while I don't mind a darker tone in general, particularly if it helps the series keep dramatic and emotionally charged, the Wheel of Time is about hope. I think that there are times where this adaptation goes too far, mostly in character beats. Okay, Mr. Sanderson is treading into a territory of truth here. Truth because the characters are not remotely like the characters in the book. None of them are behaving properly or appropriately. And he's actually going to touch on that when he talks about Nynaeve in a few moments. Tinker shit, whatever. I don't care. The Tinkers were goofy either way. And it's just dumb. So let's move on. Let's get to the Nynaeve and Tom stuff. All right. Now you're still talking about Tinkers here. Still talking about Tinkers, and Tinkers, they have the Tinkers anyway. They made them look stupid. I want to talk about Nynaeve and Lon and Tom in this, where they completely have destroyed those characters. Here we go. As for the Tinkers, he provided the feedback he originally gave to Judkins. Some great dialogue, however, he feels... okay. I think they're going to hate Nynaeve actually trying to kill Lon here. This feels out of character for her in the books. She's a healer to her core. Exactly. Nynaeve in general, I have talked about it in my reviews. I've talked about it on live streams. Nynaeve, in the book, is a bitch for a lot of the time because she's just so self-important about her position and filled with so much distrust and hate for Aes Sedai, this and that. And she acts like a bitch, but it's her outer shell because inside she's really a big-ass softy who is so abhorrently disgusted by pain and suffering that she has to put on the gruff front in order to deal with it. At least that's, again, how I perceive the character of Nynaeve. But she's a bitch on wheels, but a bitch on wheels with a good heart. This Nynaeve is a bitch on wheels just to be a bitch on wheels with no redeeming qualities, with a constant puss on that puss of a face, that dour face that isn't pretty. I'm sorry, she's not pretty. Come at me. Don't care. I can have a taste in here. Just because she's a woman of color doesn't mean I have to bow at her feet and say she's beautiful. She's not pretty. Sure, she'd kill a Trolloc, but a man who was doing his best to explain himself, even if she thinks he's an enemy, not a chance. I personally feel this introduces her on the wrong foot. Yes, the whole Nynaeve incredible, she's completely off her rocker. She doesn't behave like Nynaeve at all. If you ever do things like this, what is going to separate her from Egwene and Aviendha, both of whom would totally have stabbed in that moment? I understand. In that moment, Egwene, not yet. In this early in the story, Egwene would not have stabbed in that moment. Egwene later on, when her story takes on its full drive, after, of course, being captured by the Ascension, yeah, that Egwene would definitely gank a bitch. And Aviendha, her whole life is ganking bitches. That's her whole life until she's forced to put down the spear. But that he has it right here. He has it right here that the writers and Rafe Judkins, they don't understand the characters, and they are basically broad stroking them, making them all very similar, especially the women, brave, strong women who are constantly being affirmed. Sanderson will go on to detail that he did love much of Lon and Nynaeve scenes, explaining, no. Okay, he's wrong here. He really loved those scenes. He noted a number of times and made suggestions, some things between them, and was pleased to read. Okay, so that's your fault. So that is Sanderson's fault. They're awkward interactions. The forced coming together of them in this, not a nice, organic, natural way, which could have been done over many episodes of everybody traveling and going through the actual adventures in Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time, where they would come together and they would fall in love. No, the forced interactions here were terrible. So we can blame Brandon Sanderson for this. So there you go. Negative on you, sir. Finally, Sanderson would take issue with Tom's introduction and characterization, referencing the character's introduction to the show by stealing Matt's entire coin purse. To cut to the chase, he's going to be right here about Tom stealing this, and that. Making him look kind of like a bum. The whole Tom introduction is ruined, and he's in the show for literally a blink, and they force his storyline in conjunction with everybody else in there. It's literally shoehorned in on the edge of a dagger, and it's not real. There's no emotional attachment. There's no feeling for Tom. There's no appreciation for his relationship with Rand and Matt, where he looks at them like nephews, like as a replacement for his nephew, who was gentled. So Mr. Sanderson is correct here in how they brought in Tom. And then John F. Trent's going to basically throw out some bullshit numbers about the ratings, because we can't trust any of these numbers. You can't trust this. You can't trust that. You can't trust this. It's saying what the numbers are. Amazon's going to release what numbers they feel will paint this in proper light. So there we go. Brandon Sanderson, he's fence sitting. All right, here's my critique of this. Brandon Sanderson is fence sitting. He is taking credit for some stuff. He's criticizing some things, but he's not overtly decrying this travesty of a show. Now, it has been brought to my attention and suggested that he has his reasons. And because apparently, remember, he is the author of the Mistborn series. I have not read Mr. Sanderson's books. I have not been interested in his works outside of Wheel of Time. Maybe one day, maybe not. I don't know. His involvement with this kind of has me turned off on looking into his own books, his own series at this point. But the fact that he has his own series plays a large role. Again, it has been brought to my attention as a reason for his behavior throughout this travesty of a show. Unlike myself and many others who have been gatekept from legacy publishing, who have now been forced to take routes for independent publishing, self-publishing, in my sense, I'm going to be crowdfunding my books to create physical copies before I release digital copies. Mr. Sanderson, he is a creature and a product of legacy publishing. That is the world he grew up in as a writer. That is the world he's involved in. That is the world he has found success in. Therefore, he is, of course, going to continue to operate in that safety net. And why shouldn't he? Why shouldn't he? He needs to continue to play nice because he, of course, wants to continue to make money off his own franchise, Mistborn. He wants to continue to make that bank, make that money, and he has every right to. So I am critical of him in the sense that he let this happen. He is part of the reason that we have this abomination. He is part of the reason that this sourpussed cow is Nynaeve Almera. Yeah, Almera. I forget last names. There's so many last names. Nynaeve Almera. Reason that Tam got no character development whatsoever. The reason that all our characters are paper thin except for the women. The reason that they are pushing ideology, agenda, SJW, identity politics, the reason that intersectional feminist, he's the reason he's involved in this. It could be Tristan because he let it happen. He let it happen. He did not fight to keep this closer to Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time. But in the end, can he be blamed? No, because this is the world he has to work in. Netflix, Amazon, these are the people who may one day give him money for his books to adapt them into live action or whatever. So he needs to keep playing the game, and he cannot be faulted for playing the game. I may disagree. I may lose respect for him, but I can't fault him. That's how he's getting money. He cannot. If he decided to crowdfund, if he knew how to do it, would he be successful? Probably, because he has he has a successful channel on YouTube. He has a base. People would follow him to a crowdfund. He could cut free, but, again, it's the world he knows. Legacy publishing is the world he knows, and maybe he's afraid to leave it behind, have everything done for him. All he has to do is write the books, have them edited, and then pushed out, and then make his deal to get his payday one day. It's the world he knows, so you can't fault him for it. I may disagree with him. I may have lost respect for him, but you cannot fault him for playing it safe because them's the rules of the game. All right, I'm done. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, a like would be appreciated. If you are new here, I invite you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. We're getting closer to 1,000, guys. And I'm here to earn your trust and support in my fight to return escapism to entertainment. And I'm doing that by giving you my straightforward takes that are the truth as I see them, based on facts and logic. That's what it is. All right, so hit that notification button. Share my video if you like what I'm preaching. And please comment away. Real comments are great. You don't have to agree with every word I said. But if you're a normal person, if you're not a Stan or an SJW, I'm sure we can find common ground and get along. If you are a Stan or an SJW, you get both barrels. I don't care what you think. I will never care what you think. Just understand that your words mean nothing to me because you're cowards behind keyboards. And if we don't pay attention to you, you have no power. So thank you again for watching. Take it easy. Thanks for watching, everybody. I don't do Facebook. I will never do Twitter. If you want to reach out to me, just email me. It's purely for this channel. I will not miss your communication. Check me out at the Geeks and Gamers forums under @ROAS. Join me in conversations there, among many others. And I'm now on Odyssey at The Renaissance Nerd. Follow me there as well. Help us keep fighting to return escapism to entertainment. Thank you again for watching. See you next time.